Alright, I'm just recording a little bit so we have that gray area. That happens on YouTube to deal with. I will give it a couple seconds. Give it to about 600 frames. Should turn off tooltips. Hello and welcome everybody to another match from let me start that over. Ladies and gentlemen, do I have another match for you? It is Vegan from the D-Pad D-Bags, and I have another match from the Casted subreddit for you. We have Rogan, the red Terran in the top left corner, the submitter of this match, against his opponent, MeltyButter, the blue Protoss, who resides in the upper right-hand corner of the map. So we have a Terran versus Protoss on Shakuras Plateau. This should be a pretty fun match. I actually have not watched the match yet, so I'm casting it live as you see it. Well, not live, but casting the replay completely live as you see it, so I am unaware of what happens in this match. But as of right now, we're not seeing anything shifty going on. We're seeing the standard 9 pylon, 10 supply depot from the players, and nothing out of the ordinary, so I figure we'll probably see at least some sort of a fairly standard game in the opening. Probably nothing super spectacular, no cannon rushes, no proxy racks all-ins. So while the game is just developing, I am going to give a couple plugs. You can find all of our videos at www.youtube.com/dpaddbags. You can also find our blog at www.dpaddbags.com. We have a whole bunch of content on there. Definitely check it out. We're trying to keep it updated almost every day. We're getting there bit by bit, so please check it out. You can also follow me on Twitter at Vegan, and you can follow the D-Pad D-Bags as a whole on Twitter at D-Pad D-Bags. And if you have Facebook, please check us out on Facebook. That is facebook.com/dpaddbags. Now that my plugs are out of the way, we do have a scouting probe going across the map, and he is checking where the Terran is first. And we also have an SCV going off, and it looks like he is also going to scout first. So they are close by air, and I love this little trick. The half-completed supply depot trick. It's really good. It denies scouting while you're waiting for your barracks. Although you could just, I guess you do it because you don't want to tie up an SCV while that's building, so you can still mine and scout. So it looks like he's actually scouting cross position first. That's a pretty safe assumption. I mean, it takes longer to get there. You can get there, get as much information, and now you already know it's close air, because you could not get close ground spawns on any version of this map as far as I know. Maybe the older ladder versions, but no one's really playing that anymore. It looks like we are going to see, is that a 1-Rex gasless expand? Yes, it is. So the command center is going to go down, and the Protoss player is about to finish up his cybernetics core. His gateway is done, and he is waiting for the usual stalker first. So he's not going to go for his zealot before, and it looks like he is also dropping an early expansion. So that may have been in a reaction to the Terran player. I actually don't know if he knows about that. He does not. So he's basically just going for his own early expand sort of build. So both players are going fast expand. So we are going to see at least a longer game than like a 10-minute all-in. So this is going to be an exciting treat for us all. But it is going to take a little bit of time to develop. So we do have the barracks, the bunker, I'm sorry, going down at the front of the ramp. Well, at the top of the ramp. You know, just to stop any sort of early pressure from the Protoss player, and the Protoss player really just has this one stalker out, and he is going to do a little bit of running around with that stalker, make sure there's no shenanigans going on, and make sure there are no SCVs or any sort of barracks hanging out there. But there is not, but we do have an SCV. I don't know if this is to do anything shady, like a proxy hidden starport for Banshees, or if he is just kind of put him there in scouting and forgot about him. So we will definitely see. There is no factory in production yet, so it can't be a proxy starport, but he does have 4 barracks coming up, so he's going to look to get a nice bio army going, and the Starker's going to poke up the ramp, and my computer is lagging out, and I need to deal with that. Sorry about that. I think I'm just throwing this on my slower drive, and that is the majority of the issue. Wow, are we going to see a second expansion already from the Protoss player? No way. That is some fast expanding. That is super greedy. Let's see if the Terran player does punish it. No, it looks like he is not. He spent those minerals that he was building up. And we have another SCV coming in. There's so much excellent scouting in this game. Both players are getting as much information as possible. He does see... Has he seen that robo coming up? And... Has he... He has not seen that robo coming up, so he actually has no idea that there's a robo coming up. That's not a huge deal. I mean, I think it's a pretty safe assumption at this point. And it looks like he is going to push out with a whole bunch of Marines and 2 SCVs. He may be trying to build a bunker there. He's just going to use the SCVs for tanking, but the probe at the Zelnaga Watchtower is going to see this coming, so the Protoss player will be able to prep for that. And in return, the probe is going to run into some SCVs and die a horrible, horrible death. So the Marines are making their way across the map. And they don't have stim or combat shield yet, so these are completely naked. Stalkers can kite them, but it's going to be hard to kite with only 2 Stalkers. We do have 3 Zealots coming down, but the Zealots are going to have to get in, do a good amount of damage. The probes are being pulled, but the Marines are excellently stutter-stepping. Probes are dying. The Zealots aren't getting a good surround, and we are waiting for my computer to stop sucking. It looks like this is going to clean up most of the Protoss forces. We do have the Stalker, and he is losing so many probes in this. We do have another warp in of Zealots. He could really use a sentry to stop any sort of kiting, but those Marines are just going to continue to step back, doing as much damage as they can, taking out the Zealots. He is down to 1 Zealot. 2 Stalkers are remaining. The Stalkers can kite, are coming back out to tank, and he's losing even more probes. The Stalkers are trying to do as much damage as possible, and it looks like he is down to about 7 Marines and 2 more Zealots being warped in. He doesn't have much more for warp-ins, but it looks like the Terran player is going to pull back and this pressure is over. But the amount of workers lost was 20 workers. That puts the Protoss player so far behind. He is 10 supply behind. In terms of workers, he is... Wow. Only 5. I'm actually surprised by that. The Terran player ended up cutting a lot of workers to get that pressure off. He does have the mules, so his income is going to be significantly better, but he actually isn't that far ahead. He does have a much larger army at this point in time. No, only slightly larger. And finally, sentries are coming up, and they will do an excellent job to stop any sort of kiting. Those Zealots would have been able to do so much more damage had the sentries been there with some force fields to kite. And the Stalkers are going to move out, and they're going to see what they can scout. They're not going to be able to do any sort of damage at all because of the bunker and a whole shit ton of Marines. I really like this play. The Marines are blocking the front of the supply depot. And what this is going to do is going to stop Zealots from attacking the front of the supply depot. They're going to have to go through the Marines first. I'm sorry, supply depot, the bunker. And the bunker is going to be able to do a ton of damage to those Zealots before they can get in and even start damaging the bunker. An excellent observer pickoff that was positioned very, very well to see any observers coming in. And it looks like the Terran player is going to push out again. That is Rogan. I'm sorry, Rogan. His Reddit name was Rogman, that's why I kept calling him that. I'm sorry. Rogan. I've not mastered the English language yet. The Stalkers are moving back, and we're going to see this pressure should be able to do a good amount of damage. He does have the 4 sentries now, but he still doesn't have a ton of units. There's the scan, and he is going to rush right up this ramp if my computer doesn't stop sucking, and he force fields that off. That is a safe play. He knows that he's going to have to buy himself some more time, but that gas is going to be able to get a little bit of damage, but the scan does wear off. He does have 4 stalkers. I'm sorry, 4 sentries, so he is going to be able to force that field that for a good amount of time. Not forever, though, because that is too wide, and I believe you need 6 to force field a single ramp, but a Colossi is up. Oh, but the Colossi is misrallied. It almost ran right into those forces, and Rogan looks like he is going to pull back. He is just going to check if there's anything else going on, maybe run down for an expansion. Nope, it looks like he's just going to group up back there. The first Colossi is out, and the second Colossi is more than halfway done, and extended thermal lance is just about done. So that is going to make a huge difference. Let me check, is he on 2? Nope, he is only on 1 robotics facility. He does have his Colossi queued up. I don't see any Vikings in production. Does he even have a starport? He does have a starport, and his first Viking is in production, but he only has one Viking, and he can only bring them in one at a time. In terms of upgrades, Rogan is 1-0, and MeltyButter is 0-0. So Rogan is ahead in upgrades, and I actually don't even see a forge. The first Viking is going to come out and try and get a couple shots off, but there are enough stalkers and sentries to kind of thwart that. He's not going to be able to do a lot of damage. The third Colossi should be out before there's a significant amount of Vikings, so they are still going to be very viable. But his gateway army is actually still very small. Only 4 zealots, 8 stalkers, 6 sentries. He's not going to be able to do a ton of damage with that, especially against 37 marines and 15 marauders, as I drool all over myself. We do have a third coming up for Rogan, and it looks like the Protoss player is going to push out a little bit, but I'm not sure this is a good idea because my computer still is freezing. But he does have 3 Colossi against only 2 Vikings. Excellent force fields, stopping the units, getting right in the range, but he is still going to be able to run away if he needs to. It looks like this battle is going to go pretty evenly. It looks like, yes, Rogan is going to pull slightly ahead, but the Colossi are still up, saving those. In come a couple Vikings. He has only 2 Vikings up. His army took a ton of damage there. Looks like we've the Protoss player is over 30 supply behind. He's down by 17 workers and only has 3 stalkers. Here comes the engagement again. The Vikings are going to try and get the Colossi, but the gateway army, well, the Colossi are just too much damage for that remaining barracks army, so the Terran player is going to have to pull back. He is going to have to group back up. The Protoss player is just, what's that, 30 supply behind. He needs to do some sort of risk play to really deal with this. The Terran player is going almost exclusively Marauders now. He only has 11 Marines. He does have 14 Marauders and still only 1 Viking. I'm actually surprised we're not seeing some sort of transition to High Templar at this point. No Templar archives at all. He's just sticking with that Colossi production, which, once he really gets Vikings out and a ton of Marauders, those Colossi aren't going to be super effective. It looks like he's just going with the attempted uber composition of Colossi Stalker. He is going to push out, but his army is just so much smaller. Actually, I stand corrected. His army is not that much smaller. It's only 10 supply behind. In terms of upgrades, it looks like Rogan is up in all upgrades. I'm still not even sure there's been a forge created yet for MeltyButter, so this is not going to go that well for him. Vikings are up. There is 1 bunker, but he does have a nice sized army. He doesn't even know about the third, or he would be going right for that. That is a better thing that he's going for. He actually doesn't even have blink. He has been completely neglecting upgrades this entire game. The Vikings bio, and they are just pushing in with stim, trying to do as much damage as possible, and it looks like the Protoss player is actually going to be able to deal with this. Does he have blink? No, he does not have blink. He's taking this Colossi away, but it looks like that attack has been successful. Tons of SCVs. He actually could do a good amount of damage right now. I'm not actually sure where the entire army for Rogan is. He only has a 37 supply army, even though he's ahead. What does he have? He has 80 workers. Holy shit. He actually overmade workers. He overmade a good amount of workers. And here come the Vikings in to snipe off those Colossi, but there are just so many Stalkers here. The Colossi may fall, but the Stalkers are going to be able to do a good amount of damage, but they are still behind in upgrades. And here come the SCVs to try and deal with this. It looks like the SCVs are actually going to fall, and this may start to even the worker count. He's actually down to 68 from 80 already, and it looks like, oh, those SCVs almost got pulled right into that army. I don't know what happened. He must have had those all hotkeyed together or something, but now MeltyButter may have an idea of what's going on down here at the expansion. MeltyButter is finally taking his third, and the SCV count is still about 15 ahead, and here come the Stalkers trying to take this out. They are going to be able to get that, but they may end up trapped in there. The SCVs are being pulled to try and do some damage, pushing them into a corner. Oh, and wow, it looks like Rogan is pretty much all in at this point. He is pulling SCVs from everywhere. The SCVs are going after the Stalkers, but remember, the Stalkers do have less upgrades. They don't have any upgrades at all, whereas Rogan is 1-1. Those Marauders are still doing a ton of damage with the SCVs tanking the Stalkers, holding him in place. He does not have blink, so he can't blink out of this, so he's putting himself into a bad situation. But a bunch of Zealots come in from behind. They're going to target, and a lift on the command center, but the Zealots aren't actually attacking anything. They're just kind of running in, and here they go. They are trying to chase the Marauders, but the Marauders are kiting them, and the Stalkers come back around, but here comes a whole bunch more Marauders, and this should be able to clean up the rest of the Protoss force here, and there go the Stalkers and the Zealots. But there is a small Protoss force here, consisting primarily just of Stalkers. He has not made any sort of transition beyond his Colossi. He's still producing Colossi, although Viking production has halted, and he is going back to medevac production. The third is up, but he does only have one probe on it, and that proxy pylon has been taken care of. Both players are actually very small in the army count right now. It looks like only 18 Marauders and 8 Marines, whereas we have 7 Stalkers, 4 Sentries, and 3 Zealots. Those Sentries are going to play a huge role, because it will be able to cut this army in half, but he does not have any upgrades to deal with the 1-1, and it looks like he's going to go right for that expansion. He is going to be able to stim in and take care of that Nexus very, very quickly. The probes are staying there, and I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of dead probes here, as well as a dead Nexus. And the army for MeltyButter is still not reacting. Here he comes. He is finally working his way down. He did wait for that one Colossi, but he has got so many Marauders that Colossi isn't going to be nearly as effective as a primarily Marine focus, and Rogan is going to run up here, and looks like he's going to he's going to put himself on a ramp, which I'm not sure is the world's best idea. This would actually be an excellent position. MeltyButter could push this. He could force field that ramp, trapping his units in and push this, but no, he is going to go right for the army. No, it looks... Yes, he is going to go for the engagement, which is a huge mistake. Those Marauders are going to be able to rip through the entire army of MeltyButter, and MeltyButter is pulling back to that former third position, and he is just going to hold there. But it looks like we may end up having some sort of sandwich. Ooh, what do we have going on here? We had a drop in the main, and it looks like I did not see what that took out. Finally, it was thwarted, but now it's going to drop more, and it looks like it's going to take a whole bunch more probes. Those Zealots are just going to try and get in there, but he is in an excellent position where he can't get a good surface area. And here we do have an engagement down here. Decent force fields, but there are just so many Marauders. Those Marauders are going to be able to rip through that Stalker. Oh, wait a minute. I am incorrect. Those Marauders actually got cleaned up pretty easy. I guess that army was just considerably larger for the Protoss player. Or we got a better engagement. We still do have the drop doing a ton of damage. He is going to get that pylon, which is going to unpower 3 gateways and the support bay. And the support bay is going to fall, so there is no more Colossi. But on the flip side, he has no other tech paths. He has no upgrades. He doesn't even have Twilight Council. He's just going to stop Colossi production, completely forcing him solely into gateway units. But there are still 2 Colossi on the board. We do have a whole bunch more, and finally the Terran player is up to 2-2 against the 0-0 upgrades of the Protoss player. And it looks like they are going to clash right in the middle. The Protoss player is purely just long distance mining. He has no mining bases other than 2 probes that is natural. So it looks like he is just going to go for it. The Terran player is caught at the Xel'Naga Watchtower, and we may be looking at a base trade situation. And here's the engagement. The Colossi are still doing a good amount of damage, but the upgrades are not enough to overwhelm this army. It looks like... I'm actually really surprised. Those engagements have been going very well for the Protoss player, even though he is behind in upgrades and behind in general army supply. Actually, it looks like the Terran player has lost behind, stimming those Marauders away, but still, there is almost no army left for the Terran player. It actually looks like the Protoss player is going to pull this out, which I was actually really surprised with due to his lack of tech path, and those Colossi are going to get in and do so much damage. He actually has nothing left. He has only 4 Marauders and 5 Marines. He has no income. He needs this game is essentially over. There's still more time in it, so I'm interested to see where this goes. Oh, we have another drop in the main, and that is going to try and take out the production facilities for the Protoss player. So we are going to see no real more armies on either side. And it looks like we're pretty close to a base race situation. The only difference is their army sizes are just so small. So it's going to take a long while to clear this out. It actually looks like, slowly but surely, the Terran player is whittling down that army, but those Colossi are going to do so much damage. He does have it queued up to pretty much clean up every barracks there, stop any production. The Marauders are just jumping out, being rallied here, and then just dying. So that is not going very well, and it looks like this Nexus is going to fall. I'm not even sure why he lifted there, but the Nexus should be able to fall very soon, and we are down to one remaining Nexus for the Protoss player. In his main, he still does have minerals there, but oh, here come the probes. He is going 100% all in now. He's going to sacrifice his base and just try and do as much damage as possible and take out the Terran player. But we do have this mining base down here full of mules, so the Terran player does have a substantially better income right now. But his units are just getting rallied out, and there's one Colossi with 11 HP. If that Colossi falls to this Viking, it is going to be a huge, huge difference. This Colossi still has full health, but those probes are going to try and get in and take out those Marauders. The Viking's actually just trying to jump in. Oh, and the Viking goes down. And it looks like, in terms of units, we only have 4 Stalkers and a Colossi against 2 Marauders, a Medevac, and a Marine. And in terms of workers, they're 100% even. So this is a pretty funny ending to pretty funny ending to the game. I'm not actually sure who is going to pull out ahead. The armies are pretty much even. It's just a matter of who gets the better engagement. And here comes the Terran player. He's going to try and get in, and he needs to go for that Colossi. If he can take out the Colossi, he can win this match, but he is attacking the probes. That's a terrible idea. The Viking is going after the Colossi, but the Stalkers are able to take it down. And it's down to 2 Marines, 2 Marauders. Oh, and another Viking gets out right before that starport is destroyed. And we will see if he can take that Colossi. The Colossi is at 97 health, but it seems that the Viking will go down, and there are only 2 units left for the Terran player. He needs to get in there before that Colossi regenerates its shields, and it will be much harder to kill. He does have production, though. He has a whole bunch of barracks being created on this, and the Protoss player actually thinks he's probably going to win the game by destroying this base. The Terran player, all he needs to do is just make a ton of Marines and continue to stream them right into the Protoss army, once he will eventually take it out. So this is a very, very tough position for both players. That command center is being floated down. He is going to have 2 mining bases where the Protoss player has absolutely no income right now. So he is stuck with his workers and his 4 units. So this is going to be a very tough situation for the Protoss player. In terms of Marines, we already have 5 Marines up. 2 bunkers are coming up. Those bunkers are going to be huge. It will be so hard for the Protoss player to attack directly into those. And it looks like he might be retreating, or he is just going to see what is going on in this base and say, oh, shit. And it looks like that stim, and there is the GG. He finally figured out what was going on. So, thank you very much to Rogan, aka Rogan on Reddit, for submitting this match. It was a very fun match to cast. And in terms of various plugs, www.dpaddbags.com, youtube.com/dpaddbags, twitch.tv/dpaddbags. You get the picture. You can find me on Twitter @Fegan. Please follow, like, everything. Thank you very much.